I've been daydreaming about my garden lately and how I can make it even better this season. So I've been looking through gardening books and watching garden tours for inspiration. Today I want to share a summer tour of my garden with you. I hope that it sparks ideas, provides inspiration for new plant combinations, and brings a little bit of green into your cold winter days. We'll start here at my hedge of little lime hydrangeas, and I absolutely love this hedge of hydrangeas. Earlier in the season, it will start with green blooms. The buds will be a light green, then they'll transition to cream, and now as we get into the later part of summer and it is starting to cool off, they're taking on a really beautiful pink hue. I have to say that this is probably one of my favorite areas in my garden because I get to see this from my bedroom window, from my kitchen window, and I absolutely love looking at it. And also, as it gets larger, it really makes sort of a wall to this little garden room that we created in a video recently as well, or this season. And it's just really nice. It makes it feel really cozy in here. My window boxes are also looking gorgeous. It took a while for these dipladenias to fill out because I had overwintered these, meaning that I kept them in my basement over the winter, planted them back out in spring, and they took some time to put on buds, but now they look gorgeous. Now, the downfall of overwintering these is that they take time to bloom like this. Had I bought them in the garden center at the end of May, they would have already had a ton of buds, but currently, they're looking really beautiful with this spiller that I have in the front here, which is Mizzou, and some creeping Jenny, and then this cordyline, and I think it looks really pretty together. These planters I've had to do a little maintenance on because the petunias that I had planted here ended up getting infested with budworms. So I did cut them all back and spray them with BT, and you can see that they have budworm damage because they will start getting cut up, the leaves like that. They'll end up getting holes and just really deformed, and you know that something is eating at them. So we will see. I did go ahead and treat it, and I did also fertilize just a couple of days ago, so I'm hoping that it'll have another reflush before the end of the season. And here is one of my favorite late summer bloomers in my garden. I've shown this in every August garden tour. It is my hardy hibiscus, and this is by Proven Winners. It's called the Perfect Storm. Now you can see it has these really large, beautiful dinner plate sized blooms that look really tropical. This would make an ideal plant to put around a patio or even a swimming pool. It's beautiful. Now, something I do have to do to keep this shrub looking pretty while it's blooming is I do go through regularly and deadhead it because I don't like the way that the blooms look once they're done. They kind of just get old and hangy, but other than that, it is a really pretty shrub and I really love it. And in this bed here, the other thing that I have that's looking beautiful is my my quick fire hydrangea. This is a full size quick fire, and it is gorgeous. And it is also getting rosy pink now as we head into the end of summer. And look at this. Now, for size reference, I am 5'4", and it is much taller than me. So it has already exceeded 5 feet. I'm guessing it's probably closer to 6 feet. And this is one that grows 6 to 8 feet tall and wide. So it is quite a statement hydrangea. So if you have some space to tuck one of these, I highly recommend it. You can see how sturdy the stems are. So it's not a floppy hydrangea. It's a nice, strong, upright one with these really pretty blooms. I also have an annual in this bed that self-seeded itself, and it is some Verbena bonariensis in the center. But before I get there, I want to show you this here. This is my anemones, and they look absolutely gorgeous, kind of floating above the foliage. These are the Robotissima, and they are light pink with a darker color pink on the back of the petal. Really pretty. Now, in general, these are supposed to be deer and rabbit resistant, but I will say that I found that they did something chomped on them. So I have been spraying them to protect the blooms, but I really like those. They also have a tendency to spread a bit, and they spread through runners. So if you have a spot that has damp soil, they really prefer that, and they will get a little wild. But the good news is that they're really easy to pull out from where you don't want them. And here's the verbena I talked about. So this is an annual, but it self-seeds prolifically. This is Verbena bonariensis. The pollinators absolutely love it. It has this really pretty purple color and a really wiry, tall stem. So you can see how it just kind of gracefully moves in the wind, and it's a really pretty plant. I really love it because it adds this little pop of purple in the garden. And yeah, I really like it. I actually have some more in my patio bed. So let's actually head over there, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that look nice in that area. And here on my patio bed, I have some beautiful zinnias that are blooming. I have a polar bear variety and an enchantress, which is a really large pink zinnia. And what's great about zinnias and cosmos and even the verbena bonariensis is that they fill in the gap when your other perennials are tired at the end of the season. So for example, my coneflowers looked gorgeous in July. And as we head into the end of August, they are now looking tired and the zinnias are looking beautiful and fresh. So that is a great trick to fill in some gaps in the garden, is just to start some extra annuals that you can tuck into those places in your perennial borders where plants are starting to get tired and maybe the blooming has stopped. And something that is looking glorious right now for late summer color is this here. This is a variety of eupatorium or Joe Pye weed, and the variety is called Little Joe. And you can see that Little Joe is not that little. It's about 5 feet tall, and I would say about 3 feet, 3.5 feet in diameter, but it is nice and sturdy and upright, and it does not require staking, which is wonderful. The pollinators absolutely love this plant. You can see there are bees all over it, and it just looks really pretty as a centerpiece here in this bed. So I'm really enjoying this plant. I just added it last season, and I can't believe I've gone this long without one because I absolutely love it. And in the front, you can see my hedge of the firelight tidbits that we planted last July are looking gorgeous. They're now also starting to take on a bit of a pink tint. And for a compact hydrangea, they really pack some blooms in there. You can see how many blooms for just a second year planted panicle hydrangea in this bed here. And this Golden Jubilee hyssop that I started from seed last year using the winter sowing method is also filled out really nicely. I love the way that it's looking as a drift around the corner of this bed, and the pollinators also really love it. It has these really pretty spike purple blooms, and it has kind of a minty fragrance because it's part of the mint family. And also the chartreuse yellow-green leaves I think adds a really nice pop of color. So all in all, I've been really enjoying this plant. And the last thing I want to show you in this bed is this grouping of Millennium Allium. I have two varieties of this clumping perennial allium in my garden, and this one here is the Millennium, which blooms a couple of weeks ahead of the other variety that I have. And look how much bee activity we have on here. This is a wonderful plant for the garden. Not only does it offer late season color, the pollinators absolutely love it, and it is deer and rabbit resistant because it is part of the onion family. So they do not like the scent, which they can smell, but I can't smell. It doesn't smell like onions over here. And they're just beautiful. You can see how gorgeous they are. This grouping here really makes me happy. I love the contrast of the red leaves of the Japanese maple with the shape of the round blooms on the allium, and the grassy texture of my sweet flag ogon with the hydrangea here, the firelight tidbit. Chef's kiss. I'm really pleased with the way this bed is turning out. And here at the top of my driveway, I wanted to show you this drift of zinnias that I planted. I started these from seed, and they are the Sahara Raspberry Ripple zinnias. They are a short zinnia, staying only about 12 to 20 inches tall and wide, and you can see how beautifully they have filled out. This is maybe one plant, maybe two. I think I have two plants planted here, and I just love them for the front of the wall. So there are certain annuals that I grow every year that I know that there's a spot that I'm going to grow them year after year. And for this front of the wall area, it's going to be these low growing zinnias. They look absolutely beautiful. They're drought tolerant, so I hardly have to come up here and water them. Plus we've been having sufficient rain, so it's just worked out all around, and I'm really pleased with the way these look in this area. And here in this bed, in my front border, I have also added a drift of zinnias, which are taking the place of the Shasta daisies that are now done blooming. So I went ahead and I deadheaded my Shasta daisies, and now that they're gone, the zinnias are picking up the bloom show. And you can see here, these are gorgeous. They have such large blooms, and this is the Bennery's Giant Salmon Rose zinnia, and they're looking really beautiful. And in the front of this border, I have more alliums that are beginning to bloom. Now, this is the lavender bubbles that I mentioned earlier, and they just started to bloom over the last several days, maybe the last week. And they're also looking really pretty. Now, the difference between this one and the Millennium is that this one will bloom a little later. And the foliage also takes on a bit more of a kind of a blue-gray tint. In the middle, I have some more of that rubratissima anemone. And you can see how many buds are here getting ready to open up and bloom. And in the center of this bed here, just a few weeks back, I had the Dalmatian peach foxglove blooming that I had started from seed, and they're a first-year bloomer. They're also a shorter foxglove, and you can see that now they have dried out and they're going to seed. I'm going to leave them in place, and I'm going to let them die back in hopes that they will return next year because they are listed as a perennial. But you can see that I have them interplanted with some Blue Horizon ageratum, which is just a really beautiful, vibrant lavender color, and I'm really loving the way that it's looking in this bed. I have some Rock and Glow Coral Jade sedum that is now starting to bloom. I just added this season, so it's still quite small, but it will get about 20 inches in diameter as well as height. It might be slightly shorter, maybe 18 inches, but it's got a really beautiful coral bloom. And I'm really happy to have added those this year. I was able to find quart-sized containers over at the Home Depot, and I picked up 3 of those. And you can see here on this corner, I have a matching grouping of the Lavender Bubbles allium, and they're just starting to open up and look really pretty. And here in my front walkway bed, last season I had planted a Carly Rose fountain grass, and this year it's looking gorgeous. I really love the rosy pink hue of the plumes on this grass, and I think that the texture offers a lot of interest in this corner with the backdrop of these 2 evergreens, my Hinoki cypress and my gold mopfall cypress. And coming up the walkway, my beloved Gomphrena is really starting to put on some size. Now this is a wonderful annual. This is the 3rd year that I've grown the Gomphrena. I grow them from seed. I did use the winter sowing method for some, and I also started some undergrow lights in my basement, and they're looking gorgeous. I need a total of 18 to 20 plants to do this whole walkway, and I usually plant 1 plant every 8 to 10 inches or so. And these have been deer resistant, bunny resistant for me, and they're also very drought tolerant. I have only watered these a couple of times when I first planted them, and they're looking gorgeous. Now this is the Atomic Purple variety by Baker Creek, and I grew this kind the first time 3 years ago. Then last year I grew the Snow White, which I didn't like quite as much. I just didn't think that the color was vibrant enough. And then this year I went back to the Atomic Purple, and I absolutely love it. And planted along the edge here near my Gomphrena, I have this wonderful shrub called a candy corn spirea. It is a more compact version of spirea, getting to be 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. And what I love most about this shrub is all of the beautiful color variation that it has. It will start emerging with the foliage really early on in the season. So late winter, early spring with red new growth. And then the shrub will go orange before transitioning to chartreuse and yellow. And it also gets really pretty hot pink blooms at some point in June. So just a really great shrub. And you can see I have more Gomphrena planted all along the rest of the walkway. And I even planted a couple of dahlias in my bed. These are some low-growing dahlias. This is White Wedding, I believe, or Nettie. A friend had shared it with me, and I went ahead and I planted one here. I have another in the back there by my fountain, and another in this corner that's a little further behind that I did go ahead and put up a stake so that I can grow a little straighter. But this is the tiny quickfire that I planted in a video just a few videos back, and I think it's going to look really pretty in this spot here. And my front porch planters are still looking really good considering we are heading into the end of August. Many of these were started from seed. So here I have some ageratum that my friend Maureen shared with me. I have some of the Zahara double raspberry ripple zinnias that I started from seed that I tucked into a couple of planters in this area. And some of the sedum, Autumn Joy, that I had growing in my raised bed garden that I went ahead and used in planters. Some geranium that Maureen shared with me that I just deadheaded recently. And I have some vinca that I'm growing for the first time this year that I've been really happy with. It's drought tolerant, just like the other plants that I have in this area. So I can come out here and water once every other day, and they do just fine. I also have some lantana planted in there. And in my larger planters, I have the Dipladenia that I overwintered. This one is pink. And I planted a purple fountain grass. And here's something fun that I just found this week. This celosia just kind of popped up here. Last year, I did have a celosia growing in this container, and I think it self-seeded itself and gave me a plant, which I thought was really fun. I don't have one on the other side. I just have that one there, but I thought that was a cool find. And in the front, I have the Dichondra Silver Falls, which I think looks really pretty against this dark container. And I pretty much repeated that group on this side as well. You can see that the Sahara Ripple zinnias are doing really well in this planter. So because they are so short, at 12 to 20 inches, they make really great container plants. So if you wanted to grab a pack of seeds and do some containers for next season, they're a great one to add to your list. And coming here to this last bed in the front area, I have these Sahara Rudbeckias that I absolutely love. I have been enjoying these so much. They have some gorgeous sunset colors, and what's great about them is that you'll get the seeds in a mixed pack, and you don't know what you're going to get. There are some singles, there are doubles, and there's also a variation in shades of colors. So you can see here, these have some doubles, and there's some that are even frillier than this. Some shades of red, some that are mixed. Just really gorgeous. So if you've never grown the Sahara Rudbeckias before, I highly recommend them. You can see that these here are more red. Just a really, really pretty flower. Now these are annuals here in my zone 6B7A. So I will start from seed again next year just to make sure that I have some, but I'm not going to pull these plants. I'm going to leave them and see if they make it over the winter. But here's where I put that other tiny quick fire. And I think that the colors, now that it's changing over to the rosy pink, complement the Rudbeckia so nicely, and I think it looks beautiful. And of course, the traditional golden Rudbeckia is still looking gorgeous, and it's been blooming for quite a while now, probably 2 to 3 weeks, maybe longer. And they just hold up for a really long time. So if you don't have this perennial in your garden, I highly recommend adding it. And to be honest, it's one that I didn't like initially because of the golden yellow, but I've really warmed up to it and I really love it now. And it makes such a great complementary plant to this hyssop that I have here, or agastache. And this agastache is the Blue Fortune. And in the front of this border, I have some really beautiful plants that transition beautifully from end of summer through fall. I have this bunny grass that I added last season that is looking really pretty. And some sedum. This is a autumn joy sedum variety called Neon. And pretty soon it's going to start coloring up and have really pretty pink color. But I actually love sedum in all of its stages. I think it's just a really pretty plant that offers a really long season of interest. Super easy to take care of, drought tolerant, just a really great landscape staple. I have another candy corn spirea in the front of this grouping of plants, also looking really nice. And I've repeated the drift with some more sedum and some more bunny grass. And at the end of the bed, I have another matching grouping of the Agastache, Blue Fortune, and the Rudbeckia. The variety of Rudbeckia that I have in my garden is the Goldstrom. I hope that these garden tours offer you some inspiration for your own gardens, that maybe you can see how I've grouped some plants, and if you like those combinations, maybe it's something that you can add to your own spaces. So thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.